is Eli G. Brown / Eli G. Brony, and welcome to another classic LEGO Bionicle review. And in this episode, I am looking over the Matoran that were released in 2008, the individual sets anyway. They are the Odd Matoran, or some people call them the Karda Matoran, since they were in Karda Nui, but they are all Odd Matoran. They are Matoran of Light, and story-wise, Matoran of Light, or Odd Matoran, were Matoran of Light, and they have the capability of disguising themselves as any other element of Matoran. And in this case, the 6 that we get right here have each changed the color of their armor to represent one of the 6 main elements. Gabla right here is the only female Odd Matoran known, at least to the fan base. I'm pretty sure that there are other female Odd Matoran because Odd Matoran can have either male or female members, but Gabla is the only known female Odd Matoran out there, and she represents the element of water. Kirop is black, so he represents the element of earth. Radiac represents the element of fire. Tanma represents the element of air. Solek represents the element of ice. And Photok represents the element of stone, even though up to this point we have never seen a orange stone-elemented character. I mean, Pohatu, the Toe of Stone, the original Toe of Stone that we've known since 2001, would, or is, orange in this series, but I will be going over those in the next episode. But for now, these are the Matoran, and I will go over them real quickly. Well, as quickly as I can get. Alright, so, what are some new pieces that these guys introduce? Well, they introduce a brand new build. In the past couple of years, the Matoran would always or often be built using returning parts, hardly any new parts used. But now, this series of Matoran brings in some new parts, a couple new main torso pieces. These are the 2 main torso pieces that are introduced, and we get one of these in, each one of them comes in 3 different sets in this series, though of course they would also be in a number of other different series after the Karda Matoran, as well as after 2008, and the new arms, you get the new arm/leg pieces. Here's one style of arm, which is used for Photok's arm, and also Tanma's legs. And, of course, Kirop also has them in both his arms and his legs. Then there's the smaller one, which is used for most of the Karda Matoran, except for Kirop and Solek. And then Solek is unique in that he uses a leg piece that is not found on any of the Matoran in this series, although he is not necessarily the only set to have these arm pieces, just the only one out of these 6. So that makes him unique among all the rest. Another new piece that they have would be what goes on their backs. Now, the Matoran in this series are divided into 2 groups. One group are the Shadow Matoran, who were Matoran that had their light drained by the Makuta, and the other are the Matoran of Light, who were not affected by the Makuta. They were Matoran that remained free from the Makuta's control. And as a result of having their light drained, the Shadow Matoran's appearance changed, where they would have a combination of black and their previous color, as well as these clawed feet. Of course, Radiac doesn't have them. He has this sort of unique way on how his legs work, and I'll go over that real quickly. He uses 2 of these blade pieces at the back, and 2 of the longer blades at the front, and I'll go over the blades in a moment. And the Shadow Matoran also include these bat wings on their backs. Another thing to point out is that all of the Shadow Matoran in this series have the orange-colored eyes, or headpieces. They introduced this completely translucent headpiece. The Shadow Matoran have an orange one, and the Light Matoran have the lime green one. So that's a difference that they have among one another. And while the Shadow Matoran have wings on their backs, the Light Matoran have these jetpacks, which would also be used in some sets released during the Hero Factory series, the series that came out when Bionicle was originally discontinued in 2010. And then, there are the feet pieces. This guy just cannot stand upright, can he? Alright. Now the feet pieces, as far as I know, the feet pieces are supposed to be slightly new. They're pretty much the same feet pieces as with the Toamata that came out in 2001, but people have been saying that these were actually slightly remolded. I'm not quite sure what sort of difference there is, though I think that it could be a difference in the whole connection point, but I am not honestly sure. Now, it's barely noticeable, at least for me. I haven't taken a good look to compare the different versions of the original Toamata feet and the Karda Nui feet, but I think that the only difference would be that the new feet have a slightly thinner connection point on their feet. Now, as I was rebuilding these, I think that some of them do use the feet pieces that were introduced with the Vaki because I was not able to identify what type of foot piece was what. But I think it's hardly noticeable on camera anyways. And I personally do not care because there's hardly a difference anyway. I can barely see any difference at all. However, for the Shadow Matoran, they have completely new feet. Gavla and Kirop have these clawed feet. Gavla has them in black, and Kirop has them in gray. 2008 also introduced these new limb pieces. You see, 2008 introduced these much thinner limb pieces. The connection points on the arms, the feet, and the hands, which makes them a bit more brittle and a lot more easy to break. There have been cases in which I've had to get some replacement parts because the old ones had broken. In fact, some of these do actually have some cracks in them already. I'll see if I can find a couple. I think there's one on Kirop. I don't know if you can see it, but there is a crack right in his arm. And there's a crack, well, a couple cracks in his legs. I'm sure you saw earlier that this leg came off, wasn't supposed to, but it did. And I think there's also a crack over in this arm, as well as also a couple cracks in the legs on Tanma. It's especially a big not a big surprise actually for Tanma, considering that out of all the colors of plastic that this sort of connection system has, lime parts are the worst at it. They are much more easier to break than any other color of parts anywhere in this series. I really do not get that. How can the lime joints be much weaker and the easiest to break? Is it just something to do with the materials used to create the lime plastic? I'm not quite sure. Now, the weapon pieces, however, are mostly recycled. Gavla's weapon pieces are the same as what we saw with Karapar. Radiac's weapons are the same as what we saw with Takanuva in the 2003 series, the original Takanuva, and his back legs have the Mari Nui weapon pieces. Kirop has the weapon pieces that were introduced, well, they were used in Toa Mari Matoro. I'm not sure if they were introduced in that set, but they were in that set, and Kirop has a couple of those pieces. Tama uses the same blade pieces as Liwa Nuba, which is quite ironic since he works with Liwa in this part of the storyline. Solek uses the same weapon pieces that were used with Toamari Huki, the ones used on one of his shoulders. Not quite sure if it's also been used on some other sets beforehand, besides Toamari Huki. And Phodok uses the Chronicler staff pieces, which were also used for the head on Kikanalo. So, basically, not a lot of new weapon pieces, not even recolors. So, those are the Karda Nui. Now, the Karda Nui can also combine with their respective Toa or Makuta, but I will look over that in the next episode. So, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you again next time.